Yesterday, about just after this time, or just bit before, on the show, I had Dr. Shane Retty, the Minister of Essex, after he organised what seemed to be a shock move, the decision to can the census. Now, the census in New Zealand has had a spotty past. I remember the Department of Statistics botched brilliantly as a result of, well, frankly, incompetence, the 2018 census. And then they managed to still, despite that, botch pretty much 2023 as well. And so, as a consequence, well, presumably of double botchings, but also of, oh, well, we're going to spend too much money on it. The Minister of Statistics, Shane Retty, yesterday morning announced that I don't know, what's the plural of census? I'm sure it is censuses, but should there be censi there? I don't know. Next guest might be able to tell us. Would be disestablished forever in this country. Now, in my conversation yesterday with Shane Retty, you would note that I took a slightly disbelieving tone with him and tried to find other places in the world that were very similar to New Zealand and made up like us that had also done so. Couldn't find any. But so I've gone to the expert who will tell me whether I'm right and wrong, whether we're all should just, get back in our box that, oh, of course the government knows what it's doing, and all those people at Department of Statistics that have given this advice. And that is former Chief Statistician Len Cook, and he joins us now. Len, it's a great pleasure to have you on the show this afternoon. Welcome to you.
Hi, Mike. I wish we'd had more parliamentarians as tough as you were.
Well, actually, I think I've got a bit more wise since I left Parliament, but there you go. Listen, mate, you did a bloody good job, can I say, as the chief statistician of this country. I don't recall anybody having a go at you over anything, and they could always rely upon the information that your department provided to make good policy decisions and govern decision making in this country. What happened?
Well, can I say firstly, I was very lucky. I followed two of the best government statisticians we had. So I was apprenticed to really good people. The last two government statisticians have come out of left field and haven't had the benefit of that type of rich engagement, involvement in official statistics or statistics generally to the extent that was normal for the first 100 years of a government statistician. Can I? The first question you asked Dr. Retty was 2018. Can I say I don't think his briefing was very good, because what happened in 2018, we cocked it up completely, and we cocked it up in two ways, as you noticed. Firstly, believing people will fill in a Wi-Fi. But the key thing of the census is recognising that no one has got good addresses in New Zealand of where people are. So the first job of the census enumerator is to go around everywhere in the country and find out where people actually happen to be, where they live, and put a census form in their house by census night. So that was not done in 2018 because of the belief that the mail system and other ways of getting information to people would work, and they hadn't done for 100 years, and they didn't in 2018.
Spot on. Absolutely. Yep. So if he didn't know that, who do you? I naturally assumed he was just being briefed by his statistics current departmental group. Do you think that they willingly withheld that information from him in pursuit of their aim to cancel the census altogether?
I think they're trying to remember history a bit more benevolently. For example, we did integrate other data into the 2018 census, but it was totally unplanned. I was involved in the external review of the quality of it. And at the start of that review, the government statistician didn't have a clue what would happen. And then they had this great opportunity with the administrative records they'd been using for other purposes, and they did a pretty darn good salvage job. But it was a salvage job unplanned. And I think it's really unfortunate that the department is retrospectively revisiting its history, as all people tend to do, let's face it. But on this incident, 2018 wasn't the first step on the way we're going at all. It happened by accident.
2023 had some similar difficulties. I think there were KFC attempts to try to get Mariah and stuff like that involved. Gosh, there's been some sort of inquiry since then. Was 2023 a good census from your point of view?
Not at all. In fact, because they didn't properly review the 2018 census, They made the same mistake with address. In fact, the external review of 2023 reported on address problems even more significantly than 18. The other thing is the Minister of Statistics at the time set a target of only 90%. Now, I don't know anywhere in the world where a government statistician is told by its politicians you only need to bring in 90% of the population. I mean, that was a request from the then government statistician, which wasn't challenged and was just accepted by the minister of the time. So that census, by the way, cost in real terms twice as much as any other census we've ever had before. Now, can I tell you, if Bill Birch or Ruth Richardson or Gordon Brown, who were my ministers of finance when I was around, if that had happened on their watch, I would have been dog tucker.
Absolutely. Absolutely. No, you're absolutely right. In fact, I do think, though, in the wake of 2018, didn't the chief statistician lose her job as a consequence of that?
Yes, she did. And so did the government statistician in 2023 eventually leave their job. But that's a pretty... that affects the institution in a much more expensive way than simply someone having a shortened career.
Yeah, no, absolutely. You're absolutely right. Listen, you heard the interview with Dr. Shane Reti yesterday. Was there anything there that you agreed with to start with?
I think we are seeing in the long term a use of administrative records in population studies. But I think we need to recognise that the increasing need for them, like, for example, we've got $200 billion coming up in infrastructure investment. We've got huge issues of climate change and environmental issues, as Simon Upton reports. We've got 45% of our population growth is people 75 and over, so we're not really going to be able to build three-storey townhouses with stairs. That we need a much richer use of administrative records that help us measure change in small places. It's not about replacing the census, and I think stats have deviated from doing what other countries are doing, which is lifting the game in terms of their geostatistical systems so they can pull in a huge amount of data about places. In another way, by stats diverting to their sort of move to a potential population register, they've actually spent 6 or 7 years different from other countries, not just in their future plans.
Okay. I also did a wee bit of research. I mean, it came as a shock, yesterday's decision. So in the 15 minutes before I could get to them, I wanted to look at where Canada, Australia, and England and Wales were doing, and they're all holding censuses. But you would have heard them say yesterday, oh, yes, but they're moving away from that. They just haven't got there yet. Is that your view?
Look, I keep pretty close contacts with the Aussies. We've had relationships with them in years. They're definitely having a 2026 census as they've done before. I said, they're investing in better ways of bringing in at places administrative data, and they will continue to try, as we've done for years, of filling in the gaps, but not a significant change. The British have been thinking about this since 1987. And I wrote a paper when I was in Britain on this in 2004. But in fact, it keeps proving very difficult. And so the British have decided their 2031 will be the same way. I think when you've got a country which is intellectually a leader in the world, which has one of the most demanding communities of users in the world like the British, they think about these things much more deeply than we do. You know, we're a wee bit ripshit and bust occasionally in New Zealand, and I think the simple fact is that the government statistician in the last couple of years has kept most of this change quiet. We don't have the analytical reports of what it means for the different uses of statistics that we've got. What information are we going to lose? What are we going to get? And what information that we expect we'll need in the future or that we're not going to have or will have? Those questions have not been answered. They're not even been considered. And yet what we use a census for is because people need the information to make decisions.
Yeah, well understood. Listen, the other thing, question or the example that he used, Dr. Shane Reti, and again it would be as a result of the briefing he received from his department, was how well the Nordic countries are doing without a census. But I'm pretty sure that in all those countries, you're born with an identity number that you take through life, and you have to legally fill in much more statistics and all those sorts of things. Have I got that wrong or right, Len?
No, you're right. You've got a lot of compulsory statutory obligations to identify when you change your address, and some of them have other registers as well. So those registers are the way that you determine whether you're covering the whole population. And with the new approach, there's no other way of knowing whether you're covering the whole population, because each of our administrative sources, of all of them, none of them cover the whole population. So I think that that's a critical thing. But no, it's Israel, the Nordic countries, and the Netherlands. Like when I talk to the Netherlands statisticians, they can't produce family statistics out of their register. So living arrangements that are really important to public policy are only going to be discovered in a sort of a roundabout way. And we haven't yet proven that we can do that. So I think there's a political dimension to this that it's unlikely that Australia, New Zealand, Canada, or the United Kingdom, with that Westminster tradition, its citizens will actually look forward to having a population register. But it is the next step if you want to really make this a robust system.